In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we'll be getting our Zen 3 on. We'll be popping pixels and raging against the machine and also the iPhonery. Next. Welcome back to yet another fine episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks. I would be the raging geek, but not against the machine currently. That's coming up shortly. Marco is full-on geek as well. Chris, we're going to make you the half geek. We're giving you the lobotomy today.
Thanks.
Marco, how you feeling there, buddy? Are you feeling up to the task of full geekdom?
I'm feeling phantasmagorical. If the people watching knew what I was testing about 2 feet that way, they would know I'm super nerd geek. But you're gonna have to wait till next week to see what that is.
Nice, top secret nerd geekery. Yes, yes. I actually I know what you're looking at, and it's fascinating stuff. I'm looking forward to your analysis on that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and it'll be in the realm of gaming. We can say that much. That's about all we can say. But yeah, should be fun. Should be fun. Chris, are you feeling frisky and gamey these days?
I think I can say so with the machine that's now behind me. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much I can talk about that yet. I'll defer to you.
Actually, I think you can talk about that. That's some lunar light Alienware Aurora action with a very special NVIDIA GPU under its hood, a big honking one at that, right?
Yeah, I think it's as big as it gets because that's the RTX 3090 in there alongside the Intel 10900K. So very stout system. Look forward to putting it through its paces and turning a quick review on that. I mean, it's a 3090. What's not to love, right?
What's not to love? Yeah, no, there's nothing about that that's top secret currently. We are one of the few with a configuration from the good folks at Dell Alienware with that in existence currently. So looking forward to you kicking the tires and blasting through the Milky Way and the Aurora there. Okay, bro.
Yeah, I'll suffer through it. Thanks.
Hey, and well, the chat's just beginning to fill up. We got 2 on out there, and we're gonna have to send out a little bit of social love here to get some audience going. But before we do, let's have a little laugh because frankly, Marco, you and I, the last
I'm afraid.
the last couple of days, the last week or so, it's been a little intense. I want to say intense, actually tense. Like we've had some stresses. We'll just leave it at that. And so we need to laugh a little bit at something, right? We need to relieve that stress, right? You need to, a good laugh is good medicine, right? Right, buddy?
Yeah, yes. Anyone that has worked with me, the myriad of writers that have come through Hot Hardware's doors know that when I'm in a good mood, I'm a fun guy. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm the worst person to be around, and no one knows that better than Dave. Worked together like 20 plus years now.
Oh, God.
But yeah, we've seen a lot in the business, and the last week or so has been rife with some BS, but we'll persevere.
That's it. Rife with BS, and we had the hip boots on, wading through it. I just took a sip of beer, by the way, to lighten the mood here. I am partaking in a little Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA.
Ooh, that's a good
one. Chris, I know you got one. What do you got going on, buddy?
Yeah, I've got the Kushnok Brewing All Souls IPA. I don't have the can with me, and this is obviously a Ballast Point glass, but yeah, All Souls IPA.
All Souls, no BS. Love it. Love it. Good stuff. So let's talk about a little BS now that we're on that topic, just to have a little chuckle here.
Okay.
Apple stepped out with, and we'll make this quick. This was just a news hit for us. We haven't kicked the tires on an iPhone lately or the latest iPhone, I should say. But Apple unveils 5.4-inch iPhone 12 mini starting at $699, iPhone 12 Pro rocks LiDAR, Dolby Vision HDR. And of course, all of the iPhones rock 5G. Now, what's interesting about that is that they are sporting certainly Apple Silicon under the hood, that A14 Bionic SoC, the processor, but Qualcomm 5G modems on board. And this is the first 5G iPhone in existence, or series of iPhones in existence. What struck me as humorous was that Apple declared 5G, along with Verizon, 5G just got real, as if it wasn't real before. and also as if magically, because they love that word magical, right? Magically, the world was going to light up with 5G because the infrastructure rollout just happens when Apple says so. And so it was just that presumption of 5G just got real, and that whole presentation that kind of made me chuckle and got my hackles up at the same time. And I figured I'd just toss that out there for some fresh meat for you guys. What were your thoughts about that statement?
So the typical Apple reality distortion field, right? So it's great that iPhone users will finally have, leading edge wireless connectivity and have 5G when, we're a generation and a half, arguably 2 generations in on the Android side. And it's funny that Apple says stuff like that. In the US, they can pull that kind of crap because I think they have something like 43 to 46% share, but worldwide iPhones are like 13%. So to make a claim that the world's going to roll something out because Apple did it in their iPhone, it's just Apple grandstanding. Whatever, we're used to it by now. I know it's like, oh, I have a $499 5G phone right here. I think I have another one back there. I think I've been using one for a few months. I guess it wasn't real though.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking as much the phone side, though you make some very good points. I mean, let's face it, Android has had 5G modems in handsets for a while now, but it wasn't so much that. It was more like with Verizon out there talking about ultra wideband, which is their millimeter wave spectrum, that high speed, admittedly the highest speed 5G available, will be millimeter wave driven. And what struck me was, sorry, 5G millimeter wave right now is as scarce as hen's teeth. So if you're expecting as a new iPhone 12 consumer to get multi-gigabit 5G on Verizon's network everywhere you go, forget about that. That's a pipe dream right now. It's only in the cities that it's rolled out in. Okay, San Francisco, New York, Boston has some 5G spots. Actually, in my neck of the woods, it's like Fenway Park and Gillette Stadium. I think that's it. And then, probably a radius around those areas.
Line of sight.
But yeah, line of sight. I mean, millimeter wave is a shorter throw technology, but that's what it's like, and even Verizon's nationwide 5G claim in that launch was like, I just don't, it's misleading because there's going to be a lot of iPhone 12 consumers that will come and expect my 5G is going to be breakthrough, amazing speed everywhere I go. And it's going to be hybrid for a while. The rollout is going to take another year or so before 5G gets, more prevalent everywhere. And,
Right.
It's just, Chris, what are your thoughts? Because there was a lot of misleading marketing going on, I felt.
Well, of course, but most of the 5G that you're going to get outside of that millimeter wave is going to be barely faster than 4G. So I think most people, even if they did a blind test side by side, the 4G and the 5G, they'd have to really be looking for it to see the difference in speeds in most cases. Yeah, when you're in the right spot with the golden light shining down on you from the tower 20 feet away, yeah, you're going to hit a gigabit or whatever and be happy. But that's such a limited use case. Even if those go up all over, it's still line of sight technology. I don't know. I'm not on board with the 5G hype in general. Not because I think it causes any diseases or anything, but just because it's not that exciting.
Well,
I mean, 4G hasn't really disappointed me. So
yeah, no, I will say it's better than line of sight now. I mean, 5G millimeter wave, they are getting technologies to extend that range and through buildings and whatnot. I mean, Qualcomm is doing some amazing stuff in that space, and I don't want to take anything away from Qualcomm here because they are driving this thing for the US and they are a leader in that globally. And it's going to happen. There will come a day where 5G, multi-gigabit 5G can be available, residentially at your home instead of, broadband internet, cable broadband or fiber broadband.
But it's not because Apple did it.
It's not because Apple did it, and it's going to take some more time to roll out. It's great. We have 5G now, and T-Mobile, I can get a 5G connection actually in Milford, the next town over. I can get a 5G connection on my OnePlus 8. But as you noted, Chris, that's sub 6, not millimeter wave 5G, and it's 100 megs a second down versus gigabit. When I was at Gillette Stadium, I tested a 5G millimeter wave Verizon connection on an Android phone. I got 500 megs down. I went to the parking lot and tested it there. That was on Verizon's network. So, yeah, it just struck me as typical, as you mentioned, Marco, the reality distortion filter. 5G just got real. It's getting real, but not because Apple said so.
Yeah, like I'm screwing around with speed test right now on my on the Galaxy Note 10 here. That's just in my hand. At my home, I do pick up T-Mobile 5G here, but like I believe the tower in my area, it has to be artificially limited because every device I've tested, it's 21 down, about 11 up. No matter where I stand, inside, outside, it's flat, it's stable. If I switch to 4G, it's like 50 megabits. It's twice as fast because it's just not done. The network's not done. It is what it is.
It needs to be built out, needs to be rolled out. As I said, I do get 100 plus megabit or megabit download in the next town over, and that's on sub 6 on T-Mobile. But yeah.
And as someone up in, rural America in Maine, just having coverage is so much more important than how fast the coverage is.
Yeah.
Because I can deal with a slow connection. A connection that doesn't connect, there's no good I can do with that. So
yeah. Yeah, we'll see, but just found that funny. And but again, 5G's coming. It is real, and it's called infrastructure build out and roll out, and it's going to take a little bit more time. But if you're buying that iPhone for its 5G capabilities only, and if that's what's driving you that way, you may be sorely disappointed if you live in the suburbs. That it's just not that much different than your regular 4G connection currently. That's all. Is that a fair statement, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on to the main events, and we have several. Let's talk about what the folks at AMD talked about. Do you want to go stay in the phone vein and then kind of build up to the crescendo of AMD? How do you want to do this, Marco?
Whatever works. You're in charge.
Oh, geez, God help us then. God help us.
Stay with the phones.
Stay with the phones. All right. So let's move on to, you're right. That's a good segue. Let's stay with the phones. Google Pixel 4a 5G review, big screen, great camera, and value. That's Marco's review headline. And Google stepped out with a bigger, basically a 5G capable Pixel 4a that is also sporting a larger 6.2 inch display. Did you just drop it on the ground?
Yeah, I just dropped it.
I heard that crash. How did it survive the drop test?
Yeah, it landed on my keyboard.
Good. So we know it survives the 2 foot or foot drop test. That's nice. Interesting. Android 11, of course, sporting Android 11, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. A real value play starting at $499. $499 for a 5G phone from Google with 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM. Pretty good value. What do you think, Marco?
Yeah, pretty good. The weirdest thing about the two weird things about this phone is the branding, right? It's called the Pixel 4a 5G. It makes you think, well, first of all, here it is. Let me see if I can get something to focus on the screen here. So that's the 4a 5G in just black. You can see the camera array there. So this is the device. From the branding, you would think this is a 4a with a 5G modem added. It's not. It's a completely new phone, completely new platform, upgraded processor inside, Snapdragon 765G mobile platform inside this phone, not the 730 that's in the original 4a. 6.2 inch screen. It's actually bigger than the Pixel 5, so like that's kind of weird that it's bigger than the flagship. Just an additional camera, just tons of different new stuff versus the 4a. So the branding is kind of funky. That said, for $499, you get a phone that I think would satisfy 90% of the smartphone buying population. So you get, it's an 8-core SoC, not the fastest performance, but plenty of performance for day-to-day use. It's perfectly smooth and buttery. You get a full HD screen. It's only 60 hertz, but it's a beautiful screen to look at. The quality is there. Color reproduction is there. It looks good. The camera is interesting. Like if you look at the specs, 12 megapixel main shooter, 16 megapixel wide angle shooter. On paper, the specs don't seem like it would be the best cameras, but Google's, computational photography, their processing, I believe, is better than everybody else right now because the phone just on auto takes great shots. Just you take a shot, it looks good. You don't really have to mess with it unless you're in less than ideal lighting. And even then, there's so many options for editing, and even like quick auto enhance, quick white balance adjustment, quick skin tone adjustment, quick shadow adjustment. You can fix it really easily as well. And you don't get that. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this. If you take a shot on some phones and you zoom in a little bit, skin tones look plasticky. You can just tell it's over sharpened and processed too much. There's a little bit of over sharpening, but the images look great. And then battery life was freaking phenomenal. I got over 16 hours of battery life. Google was saying 2 days out of the phone. And with regular use, that's definitely doable. That's 16 hours running a workload with the screen on. So, and it's got a headphone jack. So that's cool. The only things it's really missing, no wireless charging, no dust or water resistance.
Yeah.
So, those are drawbacks there.
Yeah. Man, the battery life is insane. I didn't expect that with a 38 milliamp hour battery. Is that correct? Yeah, I believe so. It sounds like a smaller battery, but man, they do some pretty good stuff with Android 11 in terms of, putting stuff to sleep and, keeping things on the trim, sipping power.
I think, now that I've digested it, we published an article in the news about Android 11 sort of degrading performance versus Android 10. And there's lots of funky comments and there lots of shade in the comments. But the fact remains, we've tested at this point now 3 phones because we proved out our claims on some OnePlus phones. But on a Pixel 4a, the original, and I think it was the Pixel 4a XL you tested, Dave, the other one?
Yeah. Yep.
So if you upgraded from Android 10 to Android 11, there was a big CPU performance drop and an even bigger performance drop on GPU. I'm wondering how that is affecting battery life. If there's something funky that's sapping performance and the SoCs can't operate at their top speed, you're probably going to get, less power usage. So it's possible that if these performance anomalies are fixed, battery life comes down a bit. But I don't know. We're still not sure exactly the cause. We've reached out to Qualcomm and Google and don't have a clear answer just yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, I have a hunch. that performance degradation, and I actually just dropped a couple of links in the chat, both for your review and for the Android 11 performance degradation coverage that we provided. I have a hunch that it is something to do with power conservation, and that some of these benchmarks perhaps aren't triggering full performance on the cores, because we saw performance degradation in not only some gaming tests, but generally in those gaming tests more related to CPU shortfalls. We noted significant CPU shortfalls in things like Geekbench and other CPU related tests. But when you got to like very GPU limited tests like GFX Bench, Manhattan, for example, which is a benchmark we use for phones, there wasn't much of a difference in some phones. And then when you got to 3D Mark, which has a mixture of physics in the CPU and GPU in the scoring, you saw a significant shortfall there. There's something going on, and it may be power related, but it may be more like, hey, I don't need this much juice in this application, and Google isn't sensing the benchmarks, and so not lighting up full performance, and they don't care. It could be that simple. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we had a clear answer. It's not something that we, could diagnose completely without help from the manufacturer. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But, it's with GFX Bench, though, you mentioned GFX Bench. Yeah. The Pixel 4a XL didn't show a big drop, but the Pixel 4a dropped huge. It was like 30%. Right. So, and that's pure GPU. So it's all over the map. It's CPU and GPU dependent on the device.
Yeah, and the Pixel 4a has I believe it's a Snapdragon 730, so it's an even lower power SoC, and perhaps more GPU limited there, and so perhaps why the delta was bigger. We have another Pixel review coming. It's the Pixel 5. I have it here, and as you can see in what was that? I forget what they called it.
Simply Sage or something.
Yeah.
Sort of sage.
Sort of sage color. Actually, I like it. Kind of matches the wall behind me. Beautiful color, actually, and it's the Pixel 5. It is also a Snapdragon 765G powered phone, but with a little bit smaller display. I want to say it's six inch display. I have to pull it up.
Hold that phone up again, because I now have a suspicion that they were watching our stream, took their eyedropper tool right over the wall above your shoulder.
Seriously,
and used
like
that.
close, right?
Like that's right on Hugh.
It's very close. It's very close. Yeah. 6-inch, 90 hertz, high refresh OLED display, Snapdragon 765G, 128 gigs of RAM, 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Miriam Joie is working on our review for this. I'm also kicking the tires with it as well for coverage. And stay tuned in the weeks ahead. This is a cool phone as well. Also, I would say, a little bit more targeted towards value, but not quite as much as the 4A 5G. I want to say, what was it, $699?
Not bad for a flagship.
Not bad. But I would like a larger display personally, but these days, I don't know. That is an efficient phone in terms of size. So.
Yeah, so it's basically should perform the same, but 90 hertz screen, water resistance, dust resistance, bigger battery,
wireless charging too.
Wireless charging as well. So yeah, it should be really nice, in terms of battery life. It's the performance issue with Android 11 that's going to make people scratch their head, because the charts are going to be like, what the heck? And I think Miriam's actually targeting tomorrow for the review, so you can probably come by the site tomorrow afternoon and see that.
Cool. I'll drop both of these announcements in the chat so you can see. This is our news coverage of the 4A 5G and the Pixel 5 announcements. Look for the Pixel 5 review tomorrow, and yeah, we'll have fun with that. All right, and let's work back. And like we said, we'll build up to the crescendo and talk Ryzen 5000 and Radeon RX 6000 towards the end here. Rage Against the eMachine, a Ryzen and Radeon retro revival. Tuan is in the chat, and Tuan is one of our freelancers here at HotHardware extraordinaire, I might add, because he does some pretty cool, exotic project-like stuff like this. And yes, you are looking at an eMachines desktop PC circa 2000 and late, something. Right? Yeah, like 02 or 01 or whatever. And he decided to take it upon himself to retro restore a retro store. I don't even know why. I'm not a cool kid. Anyways. He retooled this bad boy with the latest in Ryzen and Radeon goodness on the inside. Took Dremel and all kinds of different stuff to get it in there. Radeon 5700 XT, Ryzen 7 3800X. Just went to town and had fun and built a modern PC in some classic retro skins. Marco, what did you think about this? Did it tickle your fancy?
It did. It's exactly something I wish that I had the time and the space to do. I would do a ton of this stuff because I love this idea. Tuan was really crazy about the details. So he started on this path. He started collecting retro PCs for a while. If you're friends with Tuan on Facebook, you see all the the Sony cameras, the Sony Mavica cameras with the floppy drives, and he's got a compact portable. I think it was a compact portable, really nice machine. And he's just totally embraced the retro scene. But for this rig, not only did he want to build like a sleeper, right, but he wanted to follow the green PCBs that the designs from back in the day, and even tried to make it look internally as close to one of the old machines that were out there. So green PCBs on his SSD, green PCB on the motherboard. He friggin' sanded all the paint off the power supply so it had that silver look. Although I would have just painted it. He went really hardcore and scraped that thing. And added a Sound Blaster card because Sound Blasters were all the rage back in the day. And even though it's like a Sound Blaster Live wasn't green, so it's like he let that slide. But completely, full AMD build. He retrofitted the floppy drive with a USB-C connector. He wanted a floppy to fit in there, but it didn't work out right with the way the cabling and connectors had to go. And he even like redesigned the stickers that you'd see on all those machines back in the day to reflect the modern hardware, but you wouldn't know it at first glance, right? You'd have to look and go, oh my gosh, that's new hardware. Mm-hmm. So it's just a super fun project. I love this kind of stuff. I know Tuon loves it. And the article's doing really well. So, AMD just shared it out on the Ryzen Radeon Facebook page and Twitter. It's getting tons of comments and views. The CEO of eMachines commented on the article. So that's how you know it's good.
Yeah, no, it's really good stuff. And I got to tell you, the effort with the stickers was kind of the icing on the cake for me. I'm like, dang, look at the attention to detail with that and the eMachines logo, and then recreating the AMD Ryzen 3 processor precision boost logo, and was that almost looks like where's the font and whatnot? I want to say like Athlon. There's some Athlon mojo in there or something too. I don't know.
Maybe that's K62 mojo in there.
Yeah. Like worked in with Ryzen. So it's really kind of a nice, full up, mod of, not just the guts and the skins and making it all look good, but like the whole dress. And so and
could use a CRT.
Yeah. You couldn't go that far. I'm sorry, but that's like, shoot me now to go back to a CRT. But he's his peripherals, right?
I gotta interrupt you. I just saw a video like a month ago about someone that hooked up a big CRT to a modern PC. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome to game on a CRT with a modern PC.
Why?
Yeah, it's no latency. You have that the scan line look is back a little bit. It's just cool. It's really cool. Obviously you're not going to find a 16:9, and you got to make sure the game supports 4.3. But no, it would be really cool actually to that's a modern PC. So you're not going to run old games that need 4.3, but to experience a good CRT on a modern PC, it's not as crappy as you think. And the other cool thing that he did, though, in the article that we didn't mention yet, he ran some old benchmarks in a virtual machine to show how much faster it would have been back then. It's just a cool piece. As much as I want to rag on Tuon, and I have to give his wife credit for the stickers, and I love to mess with him, he did a good job on this one.
Yeah. What did he run like Mad Onion 3D Mark? Like what was it? 3D Mark even? Yeah, 3D Mark 2001. There you go.
Yeah, and that was one of the what was that the benchmark just above that, Chris? You just scrolled past it. It was one of the old Winstone benchmarks.
Yeah, Winstone. Yeah. He went all out. Good job, Tuon. That was some fun stuff. And check it out. I will drop a link if I haven't already in the chat, because the Restamod eMachines with Ryzen and Radeon project was just something special there.
And he happened to have just picked up a new old compact machine that he wants to turn into a Threadripper. So maybe we'll get an article out of him on that one.
There you go. There you go. I challenge you. Compact Threadripper. God help us. Compact. Gateway. Can we get Gateway in there with the cow and everything?
Gateway's back.
Old Gateway towers are awesome.
Gateway is back. They're going to be a Walmart exclusive brand.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
People remember that. Yeah. People remember that. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to something a little bit more current. Let's talk about what AMD unveiled. The Ryzen 5000 family and Radeon RX 6000 Ts, really more than anything. AMD unveils Ryzen 5000 series with up to 16 cores, a huge IPC uplift, and gaming leadership. So what was notable about this announcement, this unveiling of the lineup, and they did step through a number of models of processors. But what was notable was that AMD was claiming a major, I think it's 19% IPC uplift, and the fact that not only were they faster in multi-core, as they have had a multi-core, leadership versus Intel for the past couple of series, but now they are also single-threaded and gaming leadership positioned versus Intel as well. Impressive stuff. I think we're all sort of waiting to prove out those claims with real test hardware in our hands, but you got to hand it to them. They claim this was a full up redesign, from the get go with Zen 3. Feels like maybe a heavier duty tweak more than anything else. But Marco, what are your thoughts here?
Really looking forward to it. I agree with you, though, about it being a tweak. We'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to play devil's advocate at the end a little bit. But yeah, so Ryzen 5000 series looking incredibly strong. That 19% IPC uplift or single thread uplift is an average. Like some of it is, some apps, it's way more than that. So they announced 4 processors in the initial lineup. The 5600. Oh, that's a good point. You're right about that. But I can still play devil's advocate. I just got an IM that I have to respond to. So 5600X on up to the 5950X. So, the mainstream part of the lineup is 5600X, 5800X, and 5900X. 6-core, 8-core, 12-core. 5950 is a 16-core, and how these processors differ, in addition to architectural tweaks that we'll be able to talk about soon, you now have a 8-core CCXs, unified 8-core CCXs, so it's not broken up into quad-core CCXs, with twice the L3 cache, plus some architectural enhancements, plus a much more much more mature manufacturing process, so able to get more clock as well. The top end 5950 has a boost clock of 4.9, 5900X goes up to 4.8. And just all told, power consumption in line with the existing 4000 series, higher clocks, more efficient architecture, more performant architecture, and all told should claim performance leadership in single thread, which includes gaming. So that was like one of the contentions with previous gen Ryzens, is Intel still had the gaming lead. So they should claim the lead for gaming and basically every multi-threaded workload out there. So Intel definitely has an uphill battle, moving forward.
Yeah. And what occurred to me with this launch especially, with Zen 2, there were some optimizations and improvements for smaller gains. This is a bigger sort of generational leap for sure. What occurred to me with Zen 3 is that its classic VLSI, chip design optimization as it exists in sort of the framework that the really smart people that work on these types of architectures have to work in. If you're able to bring out a CPU architecture that's inherently superior, and that initial chiplet architecture with Zen, Infinity Fabric, and all that good stuff early on, was that it was the foundation that they could build from. Then there's smaller iterations and optimizations to gain efficiency and performance off the same basic architecture. And then there's what can we do next, or what can we do? And it happens in tandem. I'm sure it starts in tandem, right? You have a short game, which is, okay, what can we optimize in the short game for Zen 2? And then it's, what does Zen 3 look like if we could really tweak it and fix the plumbing in this case, so that you don't have to traverse CCXs for memory access and have that latency, that round trip latency. That's a longer game, but you set that stake, that goal, you start architecting. It takes more time to do it, and here we are. And yeah, man, it's like once you have that foundation that gives you that edge, it's really hard to knock that off, because then the next iterations, you're getting a hockey stick effect now on performance with Zen. And impressive stuff. Intel's got to get an answer, and it's not just process, right? We're not just talking about Intel's 10 nanometer process problem. Yes, AMD's at 7. Intel's 10 nanometer super fin, which is on your shirt, by the way, looking swank, is impressive technology as well. But architecture needs to go with that for the desktop.
Yeah. So now that's a good segue into me playing devil's advocate and being a little bit negative here, and not negative, just really being cautious. So I think, right, what AMD has been doing and has done, there's obviously big changes going on, but from Zen 1 to Zen 2 to Zen 3, you can argue it's more analyzing what held the previous versions back and fixing that low-lying fruit. If you looked at Zen 1, Zen 2, the thing that really held it back, well, I use that term loosely, right? Relatively speaking, what held it back was the latency between CCXs, right? And then, memory latency dealing with the fabric and having to bounce across CCXs out to the memory controller and things like that. That was really the main crux. The architecture was fantastic, very strong architecture. But what Zen 3 basically does is say, okay, we've realized this, these areas need improvement, and we improved it. Is that really innovating? Is that true innovation? Is that really pushing things forward, or is it fixing what they got wrong in the first couple of designs? So if you want to be negative on AMD, right, they lost some of those big engineers that designed Zen in the first place. And what happens when there's no more low-lying fruit to optimize the architecture, right? Intel is awake right now. When they awoke the sleeping giant back in the day with the original Athlons, we got Conroe, and AMD got beat down for a decade. Could that happen again? I don't think so. But if what we've seen through these iterations is fixing the low-lying fruit, what does that mean for Zen 5? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm strictly playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a fair question to ask. I think it's probably a little bit of somewhere in between in terms of, your point about whether or not they really innovated and architected, a new, solution here for Zen 3 to be so performant versus the previous generation. Because what they've done to enable that, which we can't get into in full detail, it's not trivial. I mean, let's just face it. It's not trivial. We can casually just, in our armchair silicon designer, position, right?
It's easy. Just double the CCXs.
Yeah, piece of cake. Yeah,
just Legos, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. But yeah, no, it's fascinating to watch. I think what's changed forever, it seems, never say never, but the notion of chiplet and using, this building block type approach to processor design is Intel's monolithic die approach, multi-core approach has seen the end of it's getting to the end of the line. You hit power and performance issues with that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fascinating time to watch because we're getting to the next level. And where do we go from here? Where does Intel go from here? We know there's some fun stuff cooking. Certainly the mobile side, Tiger Lake's no joke. Chris, what are your thoughts, real quick, and then we'll move on to GPUs.
I mean, obviously the slides they presented, everything looks incredibly impressive. I really like how they've made the cache accessible by all the cores and really synced that up. But how it performs and how the value comes out, I mean, that's why we're here, right? And we've got to review it and see if it actually holds up.
Yeah, I would think you don't make those bold claims without being able to back it up. So I would not be surprised if we're able to prove all of that out. But we'll see how it looks in the real world shortly in the days ahead. Marco's going to be losing sleep before you know it. And I'll be losing it with him.
That one will be fun though, and since it's on the same platform, another plus, it's using the same socket and chipset as 3000 series. My test rig is done and waiting for it. So as soon as we have them to plug in and run some tests, we will be. Looking forward to it.
I got to tell you that is something that was obvious to me. How to generate demand. There's going to be a lot of folks out there in the community, in the mainstream, that are going to be looking at their existing socket that can take such a big lift in just a drop-in upgrade. That is a great pull through, sales mechanism for AMD, and Intel is, trying to follow suit on that, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Good to have that. I mean, you just look and say, why don't I get that, almost 20% IPC uplift right in the same socket?
Yeah, like especially if you had like a first, not well, the first gen Ryzen wouldn't have the chipset, but if you have like a 3200 or something like that, or one of the mainstream chips, but have a socket AM4 board with a 400 or 500 series chipset, it's like for $300 to a 5600X in there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff for sure. All right, well, let's move on and wrap up pretty soon. AMD Radeon RX 6000 Big Navi early benchmarks show it trailing GeForce RTX 3080. Now, that is a headline that is spot on. From what we can tell, from one data point that we decided to pull from AMD CEO Lisa Su's presentation, because it resonated with us and was easy to quickly reproduce in our own test equipment. So what we did was we quickly pulled up some 3080s and tested Gears 5. AMD CEO Lisa Su said Gears 5 4K ultra settings, 73 frames per second, I think was the claim. And so we were like, okay, we can check that right now. Bang, let's go see what that looks like. And in that one benchmark, it's within 8 to 10% of an RTX 3080. So interesting. And we know that for sure, AMD is going to be in a chess match here with NVIDIA, because we also know, or we suspect, not know, but we suspect that NVIDIA's got a little bit more in the can for Ampere. I mean, there's usually supers and, TIs and stuff that, come along, as well as a big honking 3090, right? But thoughts about that? Thoughts about the prospects of Radeon RX 6000, Big Navi 21, Marco? What are you thinking there?
I think we could have spent the entire podcast on this headline, right?
We left it for the end. Yeah.
Well, because first of all, I think NVIDIA was really conservative on the Ampere launch on purpose, waiting to see what's coming with this. Only having a 3070, 3080, 3090 in the lineup with no additional branding leaves open the possibilities of TIs and supers. And we know the 3080 is not the full implementation of the GA102. Like, there's just so many variables on the NVIDIA side. On the AMD side, they showed some numbers, right? Now, I haven't used Borderlands. So AMD showed Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Gears 5, right? We haven't used Borderlands 3 or Call of Duty in our review, so we didn't have a bunch of data on hand, but we did have Gears 5 at those settings. So we reran that number, as you said, fresh number. Like, as soon as the announcement was made, Dave installed the latest drivers, updated Gears, ran the test. It was fresh. That's a real number. We took some flack in the chat, which was wrong, because we're fully confident in that number. So if the Gears showed the GeForce being a few percentage points faster, I went and looked around the web. In Borderlands, the RX 6000 looks faster than a 3080, and in Modern Warfare, the RX 6000 that was shown was also behind 3080. The more scuttlebutt and more digging and looking around, I'm starting to feel like AMD didn't show their best hand on purpose. I'm just feeling that, right? So not only do I think AMD's NVIDIA held back and is probably going to have a response, I feel like AMD didn't really show their full hand. So it's really tough to draw conclusions. The best thing about it is, because this is happening, you can almost guarantee some good competition at the high end. And that's great for everybody, because it's been a long time since NVIDIA's had anything that could really battle their top-end enthusiast SKUs.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're right. I don't think there's any way Lisa Su, Dr. Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, is going to let fly with those benchmark numbers and have that be it.
Yep.
It just doesn't make strategic sense. They haven't announced, it's not declared, it's not public, what the product is, what it looks like, what, price points, all that good stuff. And so for her to put that up there and have that be the whole picture is just, that doesn't add up to me either. And I think we can expect more. It'll be interesting to watch how all those cards do fan out on the table versus NVIDIA. And I think you're right. I mean, the fact that at least with this one data point that we've been able to prove, right, based on the hard data that AMD put up, they're within sniffing distance of a 3080. I mean, it's that one game anyways, it's right there. So, it's behind it, but not a lot. You're not talking a lot. You're talking a few frames per second. So fun stuff. Chris,
Yeah.
what do you, go ahead. No, what were you going to say before? Chris can, he'll jump in.
I can chill.
I was just going to say, I think either come Christmas time or come CES, Q1 timeframe, we'll have the full picture. I don't even think in the next month or so we're going to know, because I think both companies are going to jockey hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how it shakes out. We do have a couple of questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Bootman was saying power efficiency is the thing. You're absolutely right. That TDP of 105 watts for a 16 core super fast AMD processor is pretty freaking awesome.
Yep.
And then we had another question. Well, it's Sanchez saying he's definitely upgrading from a 2600X to a 5900X. There goes the great thing about having AM4. And then Chip Trip is asking, why did AMD jump to 5000 branding instead of 4000? Because they use 4000 in the mobile parts.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what they'll do. Yeah, I'm not sure what they'll do for the next gen mobile parts.
They said they wanted to sync up the architecture so that the architecture for the desktop and the mobile chips are using the same numbers for the same architecture now. So if they had brought in the desktops as 4000 chips, they would have been different than the mobile 4000 chips that are already out there. So they should be synced up moving forward.
Chris, what else did you think about Radeon? I know you were thinking. You're ready to spit out some wisdom there. I know it.
I was going to say, FPS per dollar is always very important as well. So, we're, I guess, used to AMD not quite reaching NVIDIA's top end, but AMD's still been doing very, very well in the mainstream end of the market, that they are even speculatively nipping on the heels of AMD of NVIDIA's best practical card, because I'm not going to call the 3090 a practical card. It's awesome, but it's very expensive for what it is. And I think most people are really looking at 3080 at the top end for NVIDIA right now. Anyway, but if they're able to deliver close enough to 3080 performance for enough less, that's going to be a very big boon for AMD. The other wild card still in there is we don't know how the AMD cards are going to handle ray tracing for the titles that support it and for the people who are interested in ray tracing performance.
Yeah. A couple of comments in the chat. Paul Maker says, so there's room for 3080 20 gig Ti or Super, and the Navi wasn't shown necessarily. Big Navi, interesting. Yes, that's the thing. They both could be holding cards. And then Blackhawk makes a good point too. Rumors of 7nm TSMC NVIDIA GPUs. We know Ampere for the data center is built at TSMC 7nm process. So there's all kinds of ways the dice can roll here. So it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think as long as AMD has something competitive with 3080, and it looks like they do, they're in a very strong position. I don't think they need to catch a 3090 or any potential future Titan if one ever comes. If they're competitive with 3080, that's awesome, and it looks like they're going to be. Hopefully noise and power is in line. We'll see hopefully soon enough. And it's just really exciting time though. We have killer processors coming, killer graphics cards on both sides. It's just, and killer new storage coming too. Just lots of good stuff. Memory prices have come down. Man, it's a good time to be a PC gamer.
Oh, and don't forget, by the way, Intel DG is coming. Discrete graphics, XE graphics, XE HP. HPG, High Performance Gaming Graphics. They're coming too in 2021, early 2021, maybe. I'm trying to.
I don't think
the
big one will be early 21.
Yeah. I'm trying to think when they said that would be, but anyways, so they're going to enter the fray as well, and that's going to be fascinating to watch too. Ha. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. All right. Well, let's wrap this up and talk about what we're giving away, because it is a hella cool, awesome, amazingly generous giveaway that we have for you, thanks to the good folks at EK Fluid Gaming. EK Fluid Gaming, HotHardware, EK Fluid Gaming, fantastic AMD gaming PC fall giveaway. It is a ball to be in fall here in New England and in the 6 New England states with our good friends at EK Fluid Gaming. Yeah, so there it is. Chris, you've kicked the tires on this. You reviewed the machine. We are giving away a serious AMD Ryzen 7 3800X 8-core powered machine with a 5700 XT, excuse me, 16 gigs of RAM. You've seen this straight piped beauty. Are you excited that we're giving it away?
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful system, and I think whoever is lucky enough to win it is going to be incredibly happy. It's not going to be top of the line hardware as we're talking about 3080s and big Navi and everything else, but it's still going to game like a boss. Like with a 5700 XT and a 3800X processor, it performs great. It looks beautiful, and unlike so many of these boutique systems that we get through here with really, really complicated hardline piping and stuff, the straight pipe setup, apart from just looking striking because it's so clean and so simple and looks really nice, but I've said it before, I think it's actually reasonable to upgrade, because you can use off-the-shelf EK water blocks, put it on a new graphics card, swap it in, maybe have a little sizing adjustment on the tubing to get it lined up just right. But compared to a lot of the hardline systems we see, it should be relatively straightforward. So I am eager to maybe give that a shot down the road here, to see if I can put my money where my mouth is. But it's a very impressive system. Definitely one to enter for.
Yeah. And again, the good folks at EK Fluid Gaming offering that up. It is a cool machine, and yeah, that straight pipe liquid cooling, definitely easier to get your hands in and work with versus all those complicated elbow bends of some of the systems we've worked with. There's some of the straight piping there. You can see the distribution block up in the front of the chassis, set up really well. Cool stuff for sure from EK Fluid Gaming. So hop on the site. I dropped the link. As Blackhawk said, 29 hours left, folks. Just a little over a day, and you could win it. Get in it to win it, right, Marco?
Yeah, man, exactly. We had one more question just popped in the chat. Ski Bum was asking when we think AMD will come out with a 5700X, because there's a big gap between 56 and 58. I think it's just a quarter or two away. They're going to get the big sellers out of the gate, the clearly differentiated models first, and then they'll fill in the lineup a little later.
That's not an official statement, but that's a projection from our man.
Yes,
Marco.
That's speculation. I have no official word, pure speculation.
But yeah, if
things work.
If you track previous launches, that's a reasonable estimation.
That's their strategy.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah, exactly. We should leave that alone.
All right. Well, hey, with that, we will call it a day. And thank you very much for stopping by. But hit us on the web at hothardware.com, where you can find us, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. Thumbs up, subscribe, please. Twitter.com. You can tweet us, HotHardware, as well, at HotHardware. But yeah, hit thumbs up and subscribe. Follow us on this channel so that you can get notified when we light it up for some more content or this fabulously entertaining podcast, I might add. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. If you're watching right now and you haven't already, click the thumbs up. Do it right now, please.
Yeah, baby. And with that, we will thank you for your support, and thank you so much for stopping by.